My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. One of the things we keep hearing from our government officials is that to contain the spread of COVID-19, we need to keep our social distance, wear a mask, and wash or disinfect our hands regularly. If we do these things, we may contain the virus from spreading and ensure that our healthcare infrastructure is not overwhelmed. As good citizens, we do not think we know better, but we choose to follow these directives that have as their ultimate goal the safety and the well-being of others. Safe social distancing, the mask, sanitizing our hands, ways to control the spread of the COVID-19 virus. There is, however, another type of virus that is even more infectious and deadly than COVID-19. It's the virus of sin. This virus entered human history at the beginning of time when our first parents chose to disobey God. God gave them a choice. You can choose to love me by trusting me, or you can choose not to love me by not trusting me. And we know what happened. Our first parents chose not to trust. This act of mistrust, of disobedience, was the origin of sin, an infection that brings about violence, division, death, separation from God. But God, in His great love for us, did not keep His social distance nor sanitize His hands. He did not leave us to ourselves as He watched the infection of sin spread more and more. With a love that knows no limits, He drew close to us. Whereas we are asked to keep our social distance when it comes to the virus of COVID-19, God did not keep His social distance when faced with the virus of sin. He drew close to us in His Son. You, Jesus, came to us to save us from the infection of sin. You drew close to us. You entered the world through Mary, as we have been contemplating in the liturgy of Christmas. The very name you receive summarizes your mission on earth. Jesus, God saves. You wanted to bring healing from within and not simply from outside, and for this reason, while remaining true God, you became true man. Fulton Sheen explains the great mystery of the Incarnation as follows. He used to say in his preaching that the Incarnation of Jesus is as if a human person is able to become an insect while remaining human. After becoming an insect, such person is limited by the body of the insect, yet he is fully aware of being a man. If he were to try to speak with human words, he could only make the sound of an insect. This image simply tries to express the wondrous mystery of God descending from the heavens and becoming man to save us. God, as I said, does not keep His social distance or sanitize His hands, but the opposite. In His Son, He comes to us all the way to put on Himself the infection of sin and get rid of it once and for all on the cross. The downward movement from heaven to earth began in the Incarnation continues with our Lord's birth on a manger. On the manger, He is lying where animals feed, so as to remind you and me that right from the beginning of His earthly life with us, He will become the food to be eaten in the consecrated host as the antidote against the infection of sin. This downward movement again continues in His baptism. In the river Jordan, John the Baptist appears baptizing. Here we have to use our imagination to understand the baptism of our Lord. Imagine sinners lined up. They approach John. They confess their sins. John takes their head and brings them down into the water. Symbolically, they are made clean. Their sins remain in the waters of the Jordan, and the waters of the Jordan become filthy, polluted with the sins of the people. When our Lord approaches John to be baptized, he does not keep his social distance. He approaches John, he goes to the water, he enters them, and allows himself to be submerged into the waters. Those filthy waters, symbolically contaminated with all the sins of the people that had come before our Lord, those filthy waters are taken by our Lord. God does not keep his social distance or sanitize his hands, but the opposite. In his Son, he comes to us all the way, to put on himself the infection of sin and get rid of it once and for all on the cross. Jesus, throughout your earthly life, you show your compassion towards us. You take pity on us, as we see in today's Gospel. You continue to show compassion and pity by giving us the Church. You remain in the Church, in your Word, in the sacraments, and in the neediest. The antidote against sin is available to us. Help us to take this antidote in abundance by making time to pray each day with your Word, the way that we do here with the 10 minutes with Jesus. Help us to receive this antidote in abundance by receiving your sacraments as often as we can, especially the Eucharist and confession. And help us to take this antidote in abundance by being close to those in need. You give us yourself as an antidote against sin so that we can bring it to others. We do not keep the cure to ourselves, but we go to the world, to the peripheries, to those places where the antidote is needed the most. If we want to be holy, if we want to be like you, another Jesus on earth, we need to imitate your downward movement to the depths of the world. Yes, it can be easier to create Catholic bubbles by retreating from the world because of fear. We hear people say, things are so bad in the world that it is best to keep away from the world for fear to get exposed to the filth that I see around me. But Jesus, you yourself said, do not be afraid. How can we be afraid if we have you, if we have the cure? It is no time to retreat or to create a bubble, but to march forward with courage. Take heart. I have overcome the world, you remind each one of us. The world needs the cure. The world needs to be fed. The infection of sin continues to spread. Many are like sheep without a shepherd. But you, Jesus, you are counting on us to make this happen. You say to each one of us, you give them something to eat. Let us feed the world first and foremost with our joy. One who rests in Jesus cannot but be joyful, no matter the circumstances of his life. One who is in love with Jesus cannot but be joyful, no matter what. We see this in lovers. In their first day of marriage, and hopefully until the end, they seem to be walking in the clouds. They call it the honeymoon period. My interior joy should be precisely this, perpetual honeymoon period, because I rest in Jesus, because I love Jesus. Let us also feed the world by promoting unity. There is so much division today in society and within the Church. Sin, like COVID-19, has symptoms. One of its symptoms is division. When we divide and when we become the source of division, we are conduits that help spread the infection of sin. Those who struggle to be another Jesus, on the other hand, unite and reconcile. The world is hungry for unity. The church needs unity. And it starts with me, in my own personal life, in the way that I interact with others. Mary, my Immaculate Mother, help us to be like your Son, food for the world. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.